Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Lorena Silveira, and today I'm going to be walking you guys through how I believe I landed in internship this summer at a Harvard MIT lab, and things I think helped me throughout my application that might be able to help you guys too. For those of you who don't know me, I am now 17 years old. When I applied and got in, I was still 16. So I'm going to be talking about grappling with like the age and how honestly this is such a rewarding process, especially in a high school age, because a lot of the techniques that you gain from writing your application for internships, for scholarships, for different opportunities, jobs, anything really, they come together and help you kind of build a narrative and give you writing experience for your college application, which is something I'm beginning to have to worry about now. Okay, so this summer I'm going to be interning at the Broad Institute of MIT and Harvard in Boston. So essentially what they offer is something known as the Broad Summer Scholars Program. This program was made for rising seniors who apply their junior year to gain cutting-edge research experience in a world-renowned lab with world-renowned scientists. Honestly, an experience like no other for a high schooler like me who has never been introduced to something at this level before. So this year it had a 3% acceptance rate. I believe 18 out of 560 something students were accepted. I was one of those 18. I am so blessed and grateful to be able to say that. It was quite a process. My application took me longer than one might say it should have. And I feel like because it was my first real serious application that I've ever written, something that I knew would really count towards my college applications, I became really nervous about it. So I'm just going to walk you guys through how I think that experience might help you. Okay, so just to get started with you guys, I'm going to share my stats or like my extracurriculars that I think really gave me a boost during this application. So I had, at the time of the application, 200 hours volunteering at my local hospital. I'm a lead volunteer. I train volunteers. I have worked in both clinical and administrative departments. I've had over a year of experience. At the time, I was also in the process of founding HOSA, which is Future Health Professionals at my school. And I believe that kind of my failure essay was actually about that because it took quite some time to put together. We had to start off as a health club and later transfer into HOSA so we could be able to compete. It was quite a long and tumultuous journey. Sounds pretty dramatic, but it was annoying. It was a long process, but it ended up happening, and I was able to share that in my application and how I garnered members, how I grew the club, what kind of service opportunities that we were trying to incorporate within our own school, considering this was the first HOSA club that my school had ever had. I think definitely helped was the fact that I am the recipient of a scholarship at my school that actually pays for all 4 years. It is merit-based, and I earned it because of my interest in STEM and high academic achievement, and it continued throughout my high school years, so obviously I continued on with the scholarship. And I think that was definitely a big thing because they saw if my school believed in me, then they could too. They could take that chance because my school took one of the biggest chances they could have taken, which was giving me a free education. Another thing I think definitely helped was the amount of leadership I put into the school, which showed that when given the opportunity, I try my best to make the most of it. I work in NHS. I am a peer tutor. I always volunteer at certain events. I am also a student ambassador. I also have past experiences with certain sports. I'm part of the Scholars Program. And also going back to founding my own club and things like that, plus my transcript, my GPA, I believe, is a 4.6 something. I'm not too sure. So yeah, I try to make the most of my classes, take AP courses, but sometimes when you're putting it down on paper, it doesn't sound like enough. I feel like everyone struggled with that at one point, which is why it's super important to quantify what you have. Give numbers. If you had 15 members at your club, say that you garnered those 50 members, explain and process. You're basically selling yourself to these applications. So just make sure that you're doing a really good job at that. My sister actually helped me write mine along with my mom, and they both recently graduated college. So that was definitely also a big help for me. Having them give me some pointers or maybe what I should leave in, keep out. I think it's always really important to have people reread your essays. So yes, quantify, but sometimes even then you just feel like it might not be enough. And I realized that if you did something really great, at one point, even if it looks kind of small, include it. So one of the questions was they asked me to list any prior research experience I had. I had zero research experience. And I realized I am from the Boston area, and there are definitely plenty of students multitude of students applying for this internship who have a lot of research experience under their belt already as a high school junior. And I believe that what helped me with coming to terms with the fact that I didn't was just looking back, taking a deep breath, and thinking about what I've done that even though it might not qualify as a direct research experience, it helped me build those skills. What helped me build the skills a researcher might need? Well, I took AP Seminar as a sophomore. It was my first ever AP course, and coincidentally, it was the first year my school offered that course. So my class was kind of like a test class. We were learning about it, and I included that in my essay, talking about how we had to be very flexible, and the curriculum was changing, and a lot of things were different, and how we just had to be very ready for what my teacher was throwing at us. It still remains one of my favorite classes to this day. But we had to pick a topic to write our individual written argument or something like that. And we had to pick a topic that we were really passionate about and just write a research article on it. I called it a literature-based investigation on how certain emerging treatments impact Alzheimer's patients. And I believe that phrasing it that way showed that I was completely aware that it wasn't something that was mentored or guided. It was completely on my own, and it was an investigation that I made on my own, but it still counts for something. And I was able to provide valuable facts and things that I learned and connect it with my overall narrative. Okay, so what was my overall narrative? My overall narrative was, how can I bridge lab work to patient care? Lab to bedside was pretty much my idea. And I was able to connect that with biomarkers and identifying biomarkers earlier in treatments. And so you can bring that directly to the treatment plan of the patient and provide personalized treatments. I want to be a pediatric oncologist, a doctor for cancer for kids, but this entire idea so happened to also link to my grandfather's Alzheimer's. If they had been able to diagnose it maybe 1 to 2 years earlier, things could be much different than they are today. And I think being able to make that connection and showing that you showed interest in that in real life, like me writing that paper on it, or me starting a health club at my school or volunteering at the hospital, everything just kind of connects. And even if you don't have a direct connection like that, like clearly I have healthcare, maybe you are in the debate team and you're also in student council, and then you also volunteer here and there at your shelter. Maybe yours is healthcare advocacy, or there are so many different avenues that you could go, or it's just communication in general. If maybe you have immigrant parents, as I did, I also incorporated that into my application. And you just want to help close down barriers, because sometimes the narrative isn't always as clear. Just remember that sometimes simple is best. For example, I was asked the question in my application, what are you most proud of? What am I most proud of? I don't know. I spent so long thinking about one of my biggest accomplishments, one of something that I could write about, a specific situation and narrative at the hospital where I had to work really hard and my work ethic paid off, or something like that. And I realized that I'm most proud of my mom, who came to this country at 17 years old and had to work to make a living. Her plan was to return to go to college, was never able to, but she never gave up on her passion. And over the course of 6 years, kind of scattered around everywhere, she was able to get her associate's degree and then her bachelor's degree. And I just talked about how her having that experience and always following her passion for education inspired me to always follow education as well. But if you think about it, that was not the first thing I thought about. I was trying to think about something in my own experience, or maybe something at school. But sometimes it's in your own home. Like, sometimes the best ideas and the best things to write about are just heartfelt. Because the most important thing that people ask you to be in these applications, especially with AI going around and everything, is to be as authentic as possible. And people would tell me that, and I'd say, what do you mean? Like, obviously, if I'm writing it, it's going to be authentic. But no, it just means to write about things that are actually near and dear to your heart. Because when you actually have emotion to your writing, a person whose job it is to read applications and select the person that is most fit for this opportunity, they're going to be able to sense that, and they're going to be able to tell, wow, this person genuinely wrote this from the heart and they genuinely believe in what they're saying. And I think that already gives you a bunch of bonus points in your application. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to talk about is letters of rec. Recommendation letters are something that can be tough because it's not always easy to find a good person. And by good person, I don't mean that the person is going to write you a good letter. I mean that the person actually knows you well enough so that they're not forced to write a generic letter. Honestly, I recommend building good relationships with your teachers from day one. But also with this, simple as best goes back. Don't think that getting a letter of recommendation from your head of school or school principal is going to wow an admissions officer or a person or any sort of application reader if they don't know you that well. It is so much better to get one from your guidance counselor who you had meetings with all the time, or a math teacher who you stayed after with when you were struggling with your grades. It's just something like that, I think, means so much more to the person who's reading it because, once again, it's heartfelt. I had my AP Physics teacher write mine and my Biomedical Sciences teacher, who also happened to be my chemistry teacher last year. Those are two core science classes that I believe best reflected my STEM ability and also my room for growth, because I started off poorly in both of those classes and was able to get better as the year went on. And I think my teachers definitely noticed that, and them including that in my application definitely helped me stand out, I believe, in their recommendation letters. So yeah, I definitely believe that finding a teacher who knows you, maybe they don't have like the head of school or head of science department or something like that, but if they're a teacher who knows you, I definitely recommend going for them, no matter what. All right, so one of the last things I want to touch on isn't about applying, but it's about finding opportunities. It's always so important to reach out to your guidance counselor. In my case, I found more researching myself than with my guidance counselor. And if that's the case, research for yourself. Honestly, the more you look, like if you look for it, you're going to find it. And maybe it's not like the best opportunity that you could possibly ever find, but it's an opportunity. And I think that just meeting with people and creating a network this early is going to open so many more doors for you when you're applying to college, when you're trying to look for a job, maybe. Just networking in general is always so good. And I think it's just really important to make sure to research, because I actually found a paid internship. Broad is a paid internship that I'm able to participate, and I'm going to be able to present my findings to Harvard, MIT scientists at the end of the year. There's also going to be a college fair where I can meet with certain admissions officers. I just think it's all such an incredible experience that I would never have found if I didn't actually put the time and research into looking at it. It's not just going to fall in your lap. So I think it's really important to just take time off and make sure to look everything up, make sure that everything's in order, and try to find opportunities for yourself. And maybe it's not at a STEM internship if you're into medicine. Maybe it's you cold calling a teacher at your local college and asking them to work together in whatever they're researching. Or maybe it's calling the mayor's office and seeing if you can intern there this summer. Sometimes the first step is being bold. And just taking that first step, the first leap, is going to help you take the following steps you need to succeed. So yeah, that's pretty much for me today. I hope you guys enjoyed. And if you have any questions, feel free to comment down below. And yeah, all right. Bye, guys.